Episode 9. Zumi to the Rescue. The system chimed ping. Opening Charisma Reward Chest for Host, 1 moment. As Zumi was running to the hospital, the system chimed again. The host is being followed by a group of 10 mysterious individuals. Threat perception activated. All skills and abilities required for combat are activated. Zumi immediately took a detour into an alleyway, and a bunch of figures materialized in front of him from the shadows. A palpable pressure of bloodlust enveloped him. It was clear that these individuals were after Gia, and Zumi was their sole hope of finding her. They had to discover the location of the hospital she was in. In order for Zumi to proceed, he had to eliminate them before seeing Gia. Zumi thought about wielding the staff, and it immediately warped out the eagle bracelet floating in front of him. Zumi took hold of the staff and displayed some maneuvers, then put his hand behind his back with the staff, taking a fighting stance, and gestured for his pursuers to come at him, throwing out his killing intent. Zumi, with the bow staff, stood confidently in the dimly lit alleyway, his weapon poised and ready for battle. His opponents, a group of 20 strong martial artists, surrounded him, their muscles tense and their eyes filled with determination. As the first attacker lunged towards him, Zumi swiftly extended his staff, the metal shaft elongating to twice its original length in the blink of an eye. With a mighty swing, he knocked the assailant off balance, sending him crashing into the brick wall behind him. The other martial artists charged at him, their fists and feet flying in a flurry of kicks and punches. But Zumi was faster and better, effortlessly twirling and spinning it to deflect their blows and counterattack with precision strikes. As Zumi used the staff, he seemed to grow more robust and agile, his movements fluid and graceful as he danced through the chaos of the fight. The alleyway echoed with the sound of metal meeting flesh, cries of pain mixing with the grunts of exertion. Despite being outnumbered, Zumi, with the staff, held his ground, his determination unwavering as he faced his foes head-on. He used his weapon's shape-shifting abilities to his advantage, quickly switching between long-range strikes and close-quarters combat. The martial artists fell before him one by one, their bodies littering the ground as Zumi emerged victorious. With a final, decisive blow, he sent the last opponent sprawling to the ground, the fight coming to a dramatic and satisfying conclusion. Breathing heavily, Zumi stood alone in the alleyway, his weapon still in hand. He had proven himself a formidable warrior, a force to be reckoned with in martial arts. He realized that he had to increase his endurance and stamina so he wouldn't tire quickly. Zumi burst out of the alleyway without hesitation before more assailants appeared. After traveling for a couple more minutes, he made it to the hospital where Gia was staying. Zumi arrived at a building that looked abandoned. He rechecked the address, and it was the right place. As he approached the abandoned building that served as a front for the mafia-owned hospital, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The exterior was shrouded in darkness, with overgrown grass and twisted shrubs surrounding the entrance, giving it an eerie and foreboding appearance reminiscent of a scene from a horror movie. Taking a deep breath, Zumi pushed open the creaking doors and stepped inside. To his astonishment, the interior of the hospital was a stark contrast to its dilapidated facade. The floors gleamed with a fresh coat of wax, the walls were painted a pristine white, and the air was filled with the antiseptic scent of cleanliness. Only 4 people were in sight: a receptionist behind a polished desk, 2 nurses in crisp uniforms moving briskly down the hallway, and a doctor in a white coat studying a clipboard. Zumi's eyes scanned the room, his heart pounding with apprehension and determination. Approaching the receptionist, he inquired about a woman named Gia. The receptionist glanced up from her computer screen, her expression unreadable as she informed him that Gia was in room 305. Without a word, Zumi turned and hurried down the corridor, his footsteps echoing off the sterile walls. Jasmine had already informed the hospital that Zumi was on his way, and she had described him to the receptionist, so she immediately recognized him as he walked through the door. As he reached room 305, he pushed open the door. Upon entering, his gaze immediately landed on Gia, who was lying in the hospital bed. Her complexion was pale and delicate, with her dark hair flowing over the pillow, yet her eyes brightened with recognition and relief upon seeing him. Zumi rushed to her side and grabbed her hand. Jia's eyes brimmed with tears. Grateful for his presence, she was happy to see him safe. Now that Zumi had access to TCM, he knew he could assist Jia, but he required acupuncture needles. At that moment, the system made a ping sound. The Charisma Reward chest opening. The host has been granted a high-tier medical artifact, Jade Acupuncture Needles. Suddenly, a jade box materialized before him, glowing with a green light. Opening it, he promised Jia, "I'll assist in treating and healing your legs. After we must leave here, I will explain the situation." Jia had lots of questions she wished to ask. Still, she decided to trust Zumi. She nodded to him, giving him the go-ahead, and he began treating her without hesitation. Zumi prepared to perform the miraculous feat of healing Jia's broken legs and all the other injuries she had suffered after the accident. Zumi carefully selected a set of jade acupuncture needles from the small jade box he acquired from the system. Each needle was intricately carved with ancient symbols and imbued with powerful healing energy. Just then, the system chimed ping. TCM Master Skill activated. With a steady hand, Zumi began to insert the needles into specific acupuncture points on Jia's body, following the principles of TCM to restore balance and harmony. As the needles penetrated the skin, Jia began to respond, a warm sensation spreading through her limbs as the healing energy of the jade needles worked their magic. Zumi closed his eyes. His focus was intense as he channeled his spiritual energy into the treatment, drawing on centuries-old techniques passed down through generations of healers. For hours, Zumi worked tirelessly, his movements precise and deliberate as he addressed each of Jia's injuries with a combination of acupuncture, herbal remedies, and spiritual healing. Jia lay still, her breathing steady as she surrendered to the healing power of the ancient techniques being used on her. Finally, after 2 hours of intense concentration and energy work, Zumi stepped back, his eyes opening to reveal a glint of satisfaction and relief. Once pale and lifeless, Jia's face now glowed with a healthy flush of color, her breathing deep and steady. With a deep breath, Jia sat up, testing her legs tentatively. To her amazement, she felt no pain, no stiffness, only a newfound strength and vitality coursing through her entire body. With a sense of wonder and gratitude, she stood up, her movements fluid and confident as she took her first steps, feeling the ground solid beneath her feet. Zumi smiled, his eyes twinkling with pride as he witnessed the transformation before him. Through the power of jade acupuncture needles, ancient TCM techniques, and spiritual healing, he had not only fixed Jia's broken legs. He had also restored her health and vitality in a way that was nothing short of miraculous. Jia looked at Zumi with awe and gratitude. She knelt before Zumi and said, "Master Zumi, I owe you my life. I acknowledge you as the Shadigashara, second lieutenant, of the Dojima family." Zumi asked Jia to stand up and gave her a warm hug, expressing his happiness that she was okay. Happiness and shock pulsed through Jia's heart. The warmth of a hug and the tenderness of affection were foreign to her. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and Jia was presented with a brand new outfit by one of the nurses. Zumi was spellbound by Jia when she came back from changing. Her style was gothic and edgy. Her face was partially obscured by her flowing, black hair, with one side covering her face and the other side tucked behind her ear. Her eyes glowed a brighter shade of fiery orange, as though she had been rejuvenated with a burst of energy. She had multiple earrings adorning her ears, and her sharp gaze was emphasized by thin, high-arched eyebrows. She donned a gothic suit, tie, and a pair of stylish black glasses with thin frames. Zumi snapped back to reality and was on the verge of speaking when the system emitted a chiming sound. Jia's respect towards you has grown immensely. Progress is at 10 out of 10, attribute points increased by 10, and Jia's loyalty towards you has skyrocketed. Currently, progress is at 9 out of 10. The embrace you gave Jia earlier filled her with deep happiness. You hold the distinction of being the first person ever to embrace Jia, causing her to feel intimate towards you. Currently, the intimacy level is at 4 out of 10. One of the prerequisites for Kathy's system character quest has been fulfilled, Jia's leg improvement. 2 more conditions are required for Kathy to achieve system character status. Zumi smiled, and after this, began telling Jia everything that happened. She absorbed Zumi's words with unwavering focus, her gaze reflecting sharpness and fierceness, maintaining a profound silence throughout. It was as though she were a devoted pupil, hanging on every syllable uttered by a revered master, embodying reverence and admiration in her attentive demeanor. After listening, Jia was shocked that Zumi managed to take out 20 high-level martial artists on his own. Jia said seriously, "If that is the case, we must move quickly. I know where Anna will be taking Kathy and Jasmine. It's a trade secret of the Dojima family. I recently became an attendant to Anna, and I was generally told about it in tiny detail by Anna, but I can find them. The fact that the assassin has the Dojima family badge is worrying because only high-ranking officials have such a badge, while lower-ranking officials have a small tattoo. It implies we have been betrayed by someone as a high position. I suspect it's the former second lieutenant. He disappeared years ago and was assumed dead, so we've been searching for a replacement. We turned down numerous candidates until our Oyabun unexpectedly chose you, who hadn't even applied for the position." Zumi listened to Jia, deep in thought. Just then, Zumi's phone rang. He quickly picked up without looking at the caller ID. Jasmine's voice, on the other end, sounded grave. "Hey, Zumi, we made it to a safe house, but you should come with Jia as soon as possible. There have been some grave developments, and Anna needs you. Your presence is the only thing that can calm her down right now." Jasmine briefly fell silent and spoke in a soft voice, giving the impression that she had been crying and trying to control her emotions. She said, "Please make it back safely with Jia, Zumi. For Anna's sake, I don't want to see her sad anymore." With that, the line was disconnected. Zumi's eyes burned with intensity, yet his voice stayed steady and controlled. His anger simmered beneath the surface, a powerful force waiting to be unleashed. Like the ocean, his emotions ran deep and vast, hiding turbulent currents beneath a calm facade. His words carried the weight of his suppressed fury as he spoke, a reminder of the storm brewing within him. Despite his outward composure, Jia, who stood before him, could sense the fierce tempest raging inside, waiting for the perfect moment to break free. "Let's go!" Zumi exclaimed. Jia nodded, and as she was about to exit the room, the system emitted a ping. Threat perception activated. Zumi shared the same ominous feeling as Jia. He reached for her hand, halting her movement. Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated, and the entire opposite side of the door disintegrated as if consumed. Zumi and Jia stood frozen in fear as a wave of bloodlust washed over them, sending shivers down their spines and making their hearts race with dread. It felt as though the surrounding air had grown heavy and oppressive, pressing down on them with a weight that threatened to crush them into oblivion. Their minds were clouded with a primal urge to kill, to destroy, to unleash their most savage instincts upon the world. Jia's eyes widened in terror as she felt the darkness of the bloodlust seeping into her soul, threatening to consume her from within. But just as Zumi felt himself teetering on the edge of madness, he suddenly snapped out of it with a jolt of clarity. With a fierce determination burning in his eyes, he reached for his bow staff from the bracelet and spun around to face the source of the bloodlust. A man stood before them, his eyes ablaze with a twisted hunger for violence. He bore down on them with a malevolent grin, his hands reaching out to strike them down with a ferocity that sent chills down their spines. But Zumi, wielding the bow staff, was determined not to let this monster take him down. With a swift and fluid motion, he lunged forward, his weapon slicing through the air with deadly precision. The man's eyes widened in shock as he felt the sharp sting of the staff striking his flesh, causing him to stumble back in pain. Jia watched in awe as their attacker fell to the ground, writhing in agony as the bloodlust that he had let out began to fade away. Jia and Zumi breathed a sigh of relief, grateful to have escaped the clutches of death that had seemed so close only moments before. As they stood there, catching their breath and trying to make sense of what had just happened, just as the injured man was about to get up, Zumi attempted to step on the man's face. Yet, to his surprise, he stepped into the air, the man vanished and was suddenly a few feet away from Zumi, holding his face in surprise. Amid a moonlit night, the air crackled with tension as Zumi faced off against the mysterious assassin, a shadowy figure cloaked in mystery and deadly skill. Zumi, with muscles rippling and a fierce determination in his eyes, stood his ground as the assassin moved with lethal grace. The clash began with lightning speed as Zumi's Shaolin martial arts met the assassin's expert techniques in a whirlwind of blows and strikes. Zumi's enhanced eyesight and ability to see in the dark gave him an edge, allowing him to anticipate the assassin's moves. However, the assassin's strength, honed through years of training in assassination, proved to be a formidable challenge even for the mighty Zumi. As the battle raged on, Jia watched in awe, her eyes wide with disbelief at the incredible display of skill and power unfolding before her. Zumi and the assassin moved with such speed and precision that it was almost as if they were dancing a deadly dance under the moon's pale light. After a few intense minutes of combat, Zumi, feeling the strain of the fight, made a strategic retreat, his breath heavy and his muscles weary. With a knowing look, he told the assassin that their paths would cross again before summoning the last of his strength. With a swift movement of his staff, Zumi created a powerful gust of wind, stirring up a cloud of dirt and confusion. In that moment of chaos, Zumi seized Jia and, moving at the speed of sound, made a daring escape into the night, leaving the assassin behind in a swirl of dust and uncertainty. As they disappeared into the darkness, the echoes of their battle lingered in the air, a testament to the clash of two powerful forces and the promise of a future confrontation yet to come. Zumi stumbled into an abandoned house, his breath ragged and his body weary from the intense battle. He carefully set Jia down on the dirty floor and sat down next to her with a loud thud, panting heavily as he struggled to catch his breath in the poorly lit room. "I don't think you will find us now," Zumi managed to say between gasps, his voice strained and out of breath. Jia, still wide-eyed and in awe at the incredible display of strength and skill she had just witnessed, looked at Zumi with a newfound sense of admiration and respect. In that moment, as the dust settled around them and the echoes of their escape faded into the silence of the abandoned house, Jia made a silent vow to herself. She decided that she would serve Zumi, the mighty warrior and her savior with powers beyond imagination, for the rest of her life. All of a sudden, the system made a ping sound. Jia's respect for you has reached the maximum of 10 out of 10. Jia's loyalty towards you has reached a maximum of 10 out of 10. Jia's intimacy towards you has reached a maximum of 10 out of 10. The air was filled with a sense of destiny and connection as the words echoed within Zumi's mind. The system, a mysterious force that seemed to govern their fates, declared that Jia had met the requirements to become a system connection character. The system concluded that a quest was not needed, given her utmost loyalty, respect, and intimacy towards Zumi. Jia was formally acknowledged as a system character with an unbreakable bond to Zumi. Jia would be by Zumi's side from that moment forward. Their intertwined lives, sealed by loyalty and guided by fate, would now traverse a path together, encountering whatever challenges and adventures await them.